Welcome back to the Tracy Take for another episode where we will be talking about the Thursday night football game that is coming up this week between the New York Giants versus the Washington football team. But before we get into that, make sure that you subscribe to our channel and also hit that notification bell to get notified when we create new content. Like this video, comment on the video, let us know your thoughts. We always like reading your guys' feedback. And Ryan, let's get into it.
Yep.
This is going to be an interesting game, so to say, because it is the NFC East, and it's going to be, not probably great of the best football game, especially coming off of last.
It'll be competitive.
Yes, but it's not. I think Washington actually can be a serious threat just because of how good that defense is, or is, and was last year. I believe that they can still keep the trend going. They didn't put in the best performance last week against the Chargers, but last year they dominated the the NFC East division, and now that was with the Dak Prescott
list Cowboys.
Yeah. Sorry, that was kind of a tongue twister. But that being said, though, I think that they are I think they match up very well to the New York Giants, and that's why I think it's going to be a tough game for the Giants to win. It's home in Washington, but I want to hear your thoughts overall.
Yeah, so like I said, I think it's going to be competitive. Again, I think both offenses are going to struggle. I think the edge clearly goes to the Washington football team on the defense side of the ball. They just have a much better presence in the front seven, and I understand that James Bradbury for the Giants and that whole secondary group is very good. I just don't think that it's really going to compare much to the pressure that Chase Young and that Washington football team defensive front will apply.
Yeah.
As far as the offenses go, so I know the Giants have Saquon Barkley. They just drafted Kadarius Toney. They have Kenny Galladay. But I am still, I think, going to give the edge to actually the Washington football team.
Mm-hmm.
I just think they're more solid up front. Terry McLaurin is a really good weapon, and I think Taylor Heineke provides a little, I guess, juice to this offense. I mean, we could see it when they played the Bucs in the playoffs that he really performed well. And I have some serious concerns about Daniel Jones. He's still struggling with just ball placement when he's throwing to receivers. I mean, in the Denver game, there were multiple catches that were too high, too low. He made one receiver make a really nice one-handed catch, but he threw it like way behind him. Mm-hmm. And I just think with that defensive front in front of Daniel Jones coming at him, that he's really, really going to struggle in this game. Yeah. So sorry, but for me, I'm picking the Washington football team. I think that they will 9 times out of 10 will win this game.
Yeah, they have the spread right now as Washington being 3.5 point favorites with the over-under being sorry, 1 second. Let me find this.
41.
Yeah. And to me, I think that actually I could honestly see that being Washington winning, take the spread, and then also it being under 41.
That's what I was just about to say. I'm taking Washington with the spread, but under, because I could see them winning 20-7.
Well, and also too, if you look at the stats from last year, and it's not Denver beat the Giants 27-13, and not a knack against the Broncos offense, but it's not that explosive. Teddy Bridgewater had
Jerry Jeudy got hurt.
Yeah, Jerry Jeudy got hurt. But the thing, though, to me that I think actually shows I think a bad sign of the Giants defense was they gave up over 400 yards. They gave up 155 rushing yards and also 265 passing yards.
Yeah.
And the passing yards, I think the Broncos had 4 or 5 receivers that had 3 catches or more. Well, with the Giants, Sterling Shepard was the only guy to have more.
He had almost half, or no, hold on. Yeah, he had almost half of Daniel Jones's yards. He had 115 of 260 yards.
With 7 catches. I think there were 2 guys with 3 catches. And other than that, there wasn't really anybody else that really performed. And then Saquon Barkley had only 26 rushing yards on 10 on 10 carries. And their rushing stats are misleading because Daniel Jones, if I read it correctly, I think Daniel Jones had 27 rushing yards. So over almost half of their rushing yards.
Yeah, he had 6 carries for 27 yards and a rushing
yeah.
touchdown.
Which how much of that? I mean, I don't think that they designed QB draws. I think that that was more scrambling and trying to keep the play alive. So
Yeah,
the biggest weakness for the Giants offensively is going to be their offensive line, and the biggest strength for Washington is going to be their defensive line. I think offensively they're not going to be able to get anything done just because it's so weak and they're kind of one dimensional with Sterling Shepard. And they'd love to give the ball to Saquon Barkley, but there's no one to block for him. And I think
yeah,
Washington's just going to have a field day.
yeah. No, I mean, I don't have any Giants players on my fantasy team, but if I did, I'd bench them. I just don't think they're really going to be able to move the ball that well against the Washington football team. And granted, they are division rivals, and so sometimes those games are pick'ems. But in this division, I'm betting on the defense almost every time.
Yeah.
And right now, Washington football team, that defense is top 5, and they have the best defense in that division.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just can't go against them. I'll repeat myself a little bit, but I have concerns with Daniel Jones. That offensive line is not good. So Saquon Barkley is going to really struggle to play over that offensive line, I guess, and kind of bring them up. So it's just a tough matchup. I think the Giants have a lot of rebuilding to do on that offensive front. So,
well, it's kind of I like some of the pieces that they have. It's kind of hard, and especially as a Falcons fan as well. Like people complain about Matt Ryan a lot, and I'm not saying it's probably time to move on from Matt Ryan. I think we just need a new change, but that's going to have to be a couple years down the road. But you're never going to find the right guy unless if you address the offensive line, and they've been trying to do that, and it's going to take time for them to get a good offensive line. But it's just like you can have the best skill players. Daniel Jones maybe it has MVP talent, but if you have no offensive line in front of him, it's going to shatter his talent. You're seeing it with we saw it with Sam Darnold. It's a full team event, and quarterbacks get so much blame or praise. And in this case, it's kind of hard to tell. Not saying that Daniel Jones is the guy. Maybe it is time to move on and kind of a peaceful breakup between the two sides. But I just don't see the Giants scoring more than Washington. But I don't really see them scoring more than 10, 13 points, which is what they had last year.
Yeah, no. Washington grinds out games, and that's what they do. I think Taylor Heineke is really good for that because he's not going to kill you downfield, but man, he can scramble. He's I don't say shockingly athletic, like it's something that we've never seen before, but like he catches you off guard. And I think he caught the Bucs off guard in the playoffs. I think he caught the Chargers off guard last week when he came in for Ryan Fitzpatrick after he went down.
Yeah.
And I think he's going to catch this New York Giants defensive front off guard too.
Yeah.
And so I think his stat line will be something along the lines of probably like 15 for 22, 200 passing yards, maybe a passing touchdown, and then probably 60 rushing yards and maybe a rushing touchdown.
Yeah.
So and I think that would be more than enough to beat the Giants.
Yeah.
So,
and I will say just one thing going on, going for stats. Expect Antonio Gibson to have a big game. Melvin Gordon rushed for over 100 yards. He did have a 70-yard touchdown run, but I think there's going to be a lot of opportunities, and that's going to be the type of game plan, as you said, like they like to draw out games. They're going to be running the ball a lot. I feel like he's going to have a very big game against the Giants this week.
Yeah, they gave up 165 rushing yards last week, and they threw the ball almost 40 times. Denver did against the Giants. So that's a pretty good average there. But anyways, I think that's going to do it for this episode of the Tracy Take. If you have not already, please go ahead and like and subscribe and leave a comment down below on what you thought of this episode. And make sure to hit that thumbs up notification for the YouTube algorithm. Thank you guys, and we will see you next time.